My cousin pretended to be my dream girl for 6 months just to humiliate me at Thanksgiving dinner. Posted in r/relationship_advice. I'm still shaking as I write this. I don't even know where to begin, but I need to get this off my chest because I feel like I'm going insane. What happened yesterday at Thanksgiving dinner has completely shattered my trust in my family, and I'm questioning everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. For context, I'm a 24-year-old guy who's always been a bit awkward with dating. I'm not hideous or anything, but I've struggled with confidence issues since high school. I'm into gaming, sci-fi, and I work as a software developer from home, so my social circle isn't exactly huge. My family has always given me grief about being single, especially my cousin Jake, 26M, and his girlfriend Sarah, 25F. They're the perfect couple, high school sweethearts, both attractive, social, the works. Every family gathering, without fail, involves some comment about when I'm going to find someone or get out there more. About 6 months ago, I matched with this girl on Bumble named Emma. Her profile was incredible, she was gorgeous, had similar interests to mine, loved the same obscure indie games, was into fantasy novels, even mentioned she was learning Python programming, and her bio was witty and charming. When she messaged me first, I honestly thought it was too good to be true. But we started talking, and the conversation flowed like nothing I'd ever experienced. Emma seemed perfect. She laughed at my jokes, shared my sense of humor, and we had these deep conversations about everything from philosophy to our favorite childhood cartoons. She told me she was from a town about 3 hours away, which explained why we couldn't meet up immediately. She said she was finishing up her degree in computer science and working part-time at a local bookstore. Everything she told me aligned perfectly with what I found attractive and interesting. We moved from Bumble to texting, then to long phone calls that would last until 3 a.m. Her voice was soft and sweet, with this slight rasp that I found incredibly attractive. We started video calling too, though her camera was always conveniently broken or she was having internet issues, so I only ever saw her through photos she'd send. But the photos were consistent, same girl, same room, different outfits and angles. I had no reason to doubt anything. As weeks turned into months, I fell hard. Like, embarrassingly hard. Emma became the highlight of my days. We'd text constantly throughout the day, send each other memes, and she'd even help me debug code when I was stuck on work projects. She seemed genuinely interested in my life and supportive of my goals. For the first time in years, I felt like I had found someone who really got me. The physical distance was frustrating, but Emma always had reasonable explanations for why we couldn't meet. First, she was dealing with family issues. Then she had finals. Then she got sick with what she said was a persistent flu. Each time we planned to meet, something would come up, but she seemed as disappointed as I was. She'd send voice messages apologizing, sounding genuinely upset about the cancellations. Around month 4, I started talking about Emma to my family. I couldn't help it, I was happier than I'd been in years, and it showed. My mom was thrilled that I was finally dating someone, even if it was long distance. My dad made jokes about when I was going to bring her home to meet everyone. Even Jake and Sarah seemed genuinely happy for me, asking questions about her and teasing me in a way that felt affectionate rather than mean-spirited for once. "You're glowing, man," Jake said at my birthday dinner in October. "Emma must be pretty special." "She really is," I replied, probably grinning like an idiot. "I think I'm falling in love with her." Sarah squeezed my arm. "That's so sweet. We can't wait to meet her." The encouragement from my family made everything feel more real. Emma and I started making serious plans to meet. We picked Thanksgiving weekend. She was going to drive down and stay at a hotel nearby for a few days. I was going to introduce her to my family at Thanksgiving dinner. I was nervous but excited, already imagining how proud I'd be to finally have someone to bring home. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Emma's texts started becoming shorter and less frequent. When I asked if everything was okay, she said she was just stressed about finals and work. I tried to be understanding and supportive. The phone calls stopped happening as regularly, and when we did talk, she seemed distracted. I convinced myself it was just the stress of school and our upcoming meeting making her nervous. Then, 3 days before Thanksgiving, Emma called me crying. She said she couldn't come after all, her grandmother had suddenly gotten sick and she needed to go home to help her family. She was sobbing on the phone, apologizing over and over, saying how sorry she was and how much she wanted to meet me. My heart broke for her, and I told her that family comes first, that we could reschedule for Christmas instead. "I love you," she said through her tears. "I know we haven't said it yet, but I had to tell you. I'm so sorry this is happening." "I love you too," I replied without hesitation. And I meant it. That was the last real conversation we had. The next day, her texts were brief and infrequent. "Yesterday morning, Thanksgiving Day, she sent me a message saying her phone was acting up and she might not be able to text much. I figured she was dealing with the family emergency and gave her space. I went to Thanksgiving dinner at my aunt and uncle's house feeling disappointed but trying to stay positive. The whole family was there, my parents, my aunt and uncle, my grandparents, Jake and Sarah, and a few other cousins. The usual crowd of about 15 people. Dinner started normally. Everyone was catching up, sharing what they were thankful for, the typical Thanksgiving stuff. My mom mentioned that Emma couldn't make it due to a family emergency, and everyone expressed their disappointment and understanding. I appreciated their support. It was during dessert that everything went to hell. My uncle was telling some story about his work when Jake suddenly started snickering. Sarah was trying to shush him, but he kept looking at his phone and barely containing his laughter. "Jake, what's so funny?" my aunt asked. "Share with the class." "Oh, nothing," Jake said, but he had this weird smirk on his face. "Just thinking about something Emma told me earlier." I looked up from my pie, confused. "What do you mean, something Emma told you?" The table got quiet. Jake's smirk widened. "Well," he said, drawing out the word, "I mean something Emma told me when I was talking to her on my phone." I stared at him, not understanding. "What are you talking about?" Sarah was frantically trying to grab Jake's phone from him, whispering, don't do this, but Jake pushed her away. "I'm talking about the fact that I've been Emma this whole time, cousin." Jake held up his phone, showing me a screen I recognized. It was the texting interface I'd been staring at for 6 months, but from the other side. The room went dead silent. I felt like all the air had been sucked out of my lungs. "What?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Surprise," Jake said, his voice dripping with mock enthusiasm. "You've been pouring your heart out to your dear cousin Jake for the past 6 months. Every, I love you, every late-night conversation about your feelings, every time you told Emma about your sexual fantasies, that was all me, buddy." I felt like I was going to throw up. The room was spinning. That's not possible." I video called with her. I heard her voice. "Sarah's voice," Jake said, gesturing to his girlfriend, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. "She was in on it. She did the calls while I handled the texting. Pretty good actress, isn't she?" I looked at Sarah, who couldn't meet my eyes. "Sarah?" I managed to croak out. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I told him to stop. I told him it went too far, but he wouldn't listen. The table erupted. My mom started yelling at Jake, my dad was demanding to know what the hell was wrong with him, my grandparents looked confused and horrified. But I couldn't hear any of it clearly. Everything sounded like it was underwater. "Why?" I asked Jake, my voice breaking. "Why would you do this to me?" Jake's demeanor shifted slightly, like he was realizing the room wasn't finding this as funny as he'd expected. "It was supposed to be a wake-up call, man. You're 24 and you've never had a real girlfriend. You spend all your time in your room playing games and coding. I thought if I showed you what it felt like to connect with someone, you'd get motivated to actually go out and find a real relationship. By lying to me for 6 months?" I stood up so fast my chair fell over. "By making me fall in love with someone who doesn't exist?" "It wasn't supposed to go on this long," Sarah said, crying harder now. "It was supposed to be a few weeks, just to boost your confidence. But then you seemed so happy, and Jake said we had to keep going or you'd be devastated. So instead you thought devastating me in front of the entire family on Thanksgiving was better?" I was screaming now, something I never do. Jake had the audacity to look defensive. "Look, I'm sorry it went too far, but you needed to learn that online relationships aren't real. You were talking about moving to be closer to Emma, about changing your whole life for someone you'd never even met in person. That's not healthy, dude. So you decided to manipulate and humiliate me instead? What gave you the right?" My dad stepped between us. "That's enough, Jake. What you did was cruel and unforgivable." "Oh, come on," Jake said, but his confidence was wavering. "It's not like I hurt anyone. No one was actually harmed." I laughed, but it came out bitter and broken. "No one was harmed?" "Jake, I've been living for the past 6 months thinking I found the love of my life. I've been making plans, changing my goals, restructuring my entire future around someone who never existed. I told Emma things I've never told anyone. I was vulnerable in ways I've never been before. And it was all just entertainment for you." The weight of it was crushing me. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment of connection, it had all been fake. Jake pretending to be interested in my thoughts, Sarah mimicking caring about my feelings, both of them probably laughing about it afterward. "And the worst part," I continued, my voice dropping to almost a whisper, "is that I trusted you. Both of you. You're my family. When I told you I was happy, when I asked for advice about relationships, when I shared how much Emma meant to me, you sat there and lied to my face while secretly being the person I was talking about. Sarah was sobbing now. We wanted to tell you so many times. I hated doing this. I told Jake we had to stop, but he said you were in too deep and we had to see it through. See it through to what? This? Humiliating me in front of everyone. Jake ran his hands through his hair, finally looking uncomfortable. I didn't plan to tell you like this. I was going to tell you privately after dinner, but then everyone was talking about Emma and I thought it would be funny. Funny. I repeated the word like it was foreign. You thought destroying me would be funny. My mom had been quiet through most of this exchange, but now she spoke up, her voice shaking with rage. Jake, how could you be so cruel? This is your cousin. He loves you, he looks up to you, and you used that trust to hurt him in the most devastating way possible. I was trying to help him. Jake protested, but even he didn't sound convinced anymore. Help him? My uncle, Jake's own father, looked disgusted. Son, what you did was psychological torture. You made him fall in love with a lie, and then you ripped it away from him in the most public, humiliating way possible. The room fell silent except for Sarah's crying and my own ragged breathing. I felt hollowed out, like everything inside me had been scooped away. 6 months of joy, hope, love, and dreams, all of it had been a lie designed to mock me. I need to leave, I said quietly. Honey, wait, my mom started, but I was already grabbing my jacket. No, I need to go. I can't be here right now. I drove home in a daze, running red lights and stop signs without even realizing it. When I got to my apartment, I immediately opened my phone and looked at all the messages from Emma. Hundreds of them. Photos, voice messages, long conversations about our hopes and dreams, expressions of love and support. All lies. All Jake. I started going through some of the messages, and the cruelty became even clearer. There were conversations where Emma had encouraged me to open up about my insecurities, my fears about dating, my sexual inexperience. I had been so grateful to have someone who seemed to understand and accept me. Now I realized Jake had been collecting ammunition, getting me to reveal my deepest vulnerabilities while pretending to care. In one conversation from a few weeks ago, I had told Emma about how badly my family's teasing about my dating life affected me, how it made me feel like a failure and a disappointment. Emma had been so sweet and supportive, telling me that the right person would come along and that my family just wanted me to be happy. Jake had been playing both sides, participating in the family teasing while secretly being the fake girlfriend who consoled me about it. The more I thought about it, the sicker I felt. How many private details about me had Jake shared with Sarah? How many times had they laughed about my messages? Had they screenshot funny things I said to show their friends? Around midnight, Sarah started calling me. I ignored the first few calls, but she kept trying. What? I finally answered. Please let me explain, she said, her voice hoarse from crying. Please, I need you to know how sorry I am. Sorry doesn't fix this, Sarah. I know it doesn't. But I need you to understand that I hated every minute of it. I told Jake from the beginning that it was cruel, but he convinced me it would help you build confidence. How was lying to me supposed to build my confidence? He said that after a few weeks, we'd gradually make Emma less available, and then you'd naturally start looking for someone real. He thought experiencing what it felt like to connect with someone would motivate you to put yourself out there. That's the stupidest logic I've ever heard. I know that now. I knew it then, too, but Jake can be very convincing when he wants something. And at first, you did seem happier. Your whole family noticed it. You were more confident, more social at family gatherings. Because I thought I had someone who loved me. I know. And when Jake wanted to keep going past the first month, I said no. We had huge fights about it. But he said you were already invested, and stopping suddenly would hurt you more than continuing. I was quiet for a long moment. How long were you planning to keep this up? Jake wanted to wait until after the holidays. He thought he could gradually make Emma lose interest and fade away, and then comfort you through the breakup as your supportive cousin. The calculation of it was breathtaking. So you were going to manipulate me into a fake breakup too. I'm so sorry. I know there's no excuse. I should have put a stop to it after the first week, but I was weak and I let Jake convince me we were in too deep to quit. Sarah, do you have any idea what this has done to me? I've been thinking about proposing to Emma. I was planning to move to be closer to her. I've been restructuring my entire life around someone who doesn't exist. Sarah started crying again. I know. I'm so sorry. And now I have to face the fact that every moment of happiness I felt for the past 6 months was based on a lie. Every time I felt loved, understood, connected, it was all fake. How am I supposed to trust anyone again? How am I supposed to believe that any future relationship is real? I don't know, Sarah whispered. I don't know how to fix what we did. You can't fix it. It's not fixable. I hung up and turned off my phone. I've been awake all night thinking about everything. I keep going back through messages and phone calls, looking for signs I missed, wondering how I could have been so stupid. But the truth is, Jake and Sarah were thorough. They never slipped up. The photos were consistent, the personality was coherent, and Sarah really did sound like she cared during those phone calls. The cruelest part might be that some of the connection I felt was real, it was just with the wrong person. Jake knows me well enough that he could craft a personality that would appeal to me. When Emma laughed at my jokes, that was Jake's real reaction to my sense of humor. When Emma shared interests with me, those were often interests Jake and I actually had in common. When Emma gave me advice or support, some of it was probably genuine care from Jake, just delivered in the most twisted way possible. But that almost makes it worse. It means there was real affection there, buried under layers of deception and cruelty. Jake cared enough about me to know exactly how to make me happy, and then used that knowledge to manipulate me for his own amusement. I don't know how to face my family again. I don't know how to face Jake and Sarah. I don't know how to trust my own judgment about people anymore. If I could be fooled this completely by people I've known my whole life, how can I ever believe that a relationship with a stranger is real? The worst part is that Jake was partially right about one thing: the experience did change me. For 6 months, I felt what it was like to be loved, to have someone excited to hear from me, to have someone who thought I was funny and interesting and worth spending time with. And now that I know it was all fake, I don't know if I can go back to who I was before, but I also don't know how to move forward. Everyone keeps calling and texting, my parents, my aunt and uncle, even my grandparents. Jake sent me one text, "I'm sorry man. I fucked up." Sarah has sent about 30 messages alternating between apologies and trying to explain their reasoning. I don't want to hear from any of them. I don't want their apologies or their explanations. I want the last 6 months of my life back. I want to unknow what it feels like to think someone loves you. I want to unfeel the connection I thought I had with Emma. But mostly, I want to understand how the people who claim to love me could be so casually cruel. This wasn't a small prank or a moment of poor judgment. This was 6 months of deliberate, sustained deception designed to manipulate my emotions and then humiliate me. That's not something you do to someone you care about. I'm supposed to go to my parents' house today for leftover turkey and to watch football, like we do every year. But I can't imagine sitting there pretending everything is normal, pretending I'm not completely shattered inside. I don't know what I'm looking for by posting this. Maybe just validation that what happened to me was as awful as it feels. Maybe advice on how to move forward. Maybe just the chance to tell the story without someone trying to find the silver lining or explain Jake's perspective. All I know is that I feel more alone now than I did before Emma, which I didn't think was possible. Update. Thanks to everyone who responded. Reading your comments has been both validating and heartbreaking. Validating because you all understand how fucked up this was, and heartbreaking because apparently this kind of thing happens more often than I realized. A few people asked for updates, so here's what's happened in the past few days. My parents came over yesterday morning when I didn't show up for leftovers. My mom took one look at me and started crying. I guess I looked as bad as I felt. They stayed for a few hours, just sitting with me mostly. My dad, who's usually pretty stoic, told me that what Jake did was unforgivable and that he was proud of how I handled myself at dinner. You could have hit him, Dad said. I probably would have. My mom has been texting Jake's mother, my aunt, apparently, and the whole family is furious with Jake. My uncle called me personally to apologize for his son's behavior and to tell me that Jake has been disinvited from Christmas. Several family members have reached out individually to express their support and horror at what happened. Even my 85-year-old grandmother called to tell me that Jake was a cruel boy who needs to learn some manners. The family response has actually been really touching, but it also makes Jake's betrayal feel worse somehow. Everyone understands immediately how devastating this was, which means Jake knew exactly how much damage he was doing. Jake has been trying to reach me through every possible channel. He's called, texted, emailed, even showed up at my apartment yesterday. I didn't answer the door. His messages have evolved from "I'm sorry man" to increasingly desperate attempts to explain himself and minimize what he did. His latest email was a long thing about how he was trying to be a good cousin and help me level up my dating life. He actually used the phrase level up like this is a video game. He said he never meant for it to go as far as it did, and that he was planning to end it gently after Christmas. He also claimed that some of Emma's feelings were real because they came from his genuine care for me as his cousin. This might be the most disturbing part. He seems to think that because he really does care about me, catfishing me for 6 months was somehow loving. Sarah has been even more persistent. She sent me probably 50 texts and emails, mostly focused on how guilty she feels and how she knew it was wrong but didn't know how to stop it. She keeps saying she was weak and let Jake manipulate her into continuing. I'm not buying it. Sarah is a grown woman who made active choices for 6 months. She chose to put on that voice and pretend to care about me during those phone calls. She chose to keep lying every time she saw me in person. Weak doesn't cover that level of sustained deception. Some people in the comments suggested I should forgive them because family is family, or because they claim they were trying to help me. I appreciate the perspective, but I don't think you understand the depth of what they did. This wasn't just lying to me about having a girlfriend. They made me fall in love with a fictional person they created specifically to exploit my vulnerabilities. They listened to me pour my heart out about my insecurities, my dreams, my fears, and they used all of it to craft a more convincing lie. When I told Emma I loved her, Jake was on the other end knowing it was all fake. When I shared my sexual fantasies with her, Sarah was listening and probably cringing. When I talked about how much Emma meant to me at family dinners, they sat there and smiled and asked follow-up questions, all while knowing they were the architects of my happiness. That's not misguided help. That's psychological manipulation on a level I didn't know I was capable of experiencing from people I trusted. I've decided I need to take a break from the family for a while. Not forever necessarily, but at least until I can figure out how to trust again. My parents understand, though they're sad about missing Christmas together. I'm also starting therapy next week. A few people recommended it, and I think they're right. I need help processing this betrayal, but I also need help figuring out how to date real people after this experience. The hardest part is that I still miss Emma, even knowing she was never real. I miss the person I thought I was talking to, the relationship I thought I had. It's like grieving someone who died, except they never existed in the first place. I keep having moments where I want to text her about something funny that happened, or call her when I'm having a bad day, and then I remember that her is Jake, and the grief hits all over again. Some of you asked if I'm considering going to the police. I looked into it, but apparently what Jake and Sarah did isn't technically illegal. It's just incredibly fucked up. A few people also asked if I'm going to get them back somehow. I'm not. I don't want revenge. I just want to heal and move on and maybe someday trust people again. But I also don't want to forgive them. Not anytime soon, anyway. What they did was calculated and cruel, and the fact that they claim they did it out of love makes it worse, not better. I just want my life back. But I guess that's not how this works. Thanks again to everyone who reached out with support. It means more than you know. Final update. It's been about 2 weeks since I posted this, and a lot of you have been asking for updates. I wasn't sure I wanted to share more, but writing this out has been helpful, and your support has meant everything to me. Things have gotten both better and worse, if that makes sense. The better, I started therapy, and my therapist is amazing. She specializes in trauma and betrayal, and she immediately understood the complexity of what happened to me. She helped me realize that what Jake and Sarah did was a form of emotional abuse called manipulation through false intimacy, and that my reactions are completely normal for someone who's experienced that level of betrayal. She also helped me understand that the grief I'm feeling for Emma is real and valid, even though Emma never existed. I was grieving the loss of love, hope, and trust, and those feelings were real even if their object wasn't. The worse, Jake has completely lost his mind since I've been refusing to engage with him. What started as apologies and explanations has escalated into anger and blame. He showed up at my work last week and caused such a scene that security had to escort him out. He was yelling about how I was destroying the family by being dramatic and refusing to get over it. He actually said I was being selfish for making everyone choose sides over a harmless prank. My boss pulled me aside afterward to make sure I was okay and to ask if I needed them to get a restraining order. I was mortified, but also touched by their concern. The family situation has completely imploded. Jake's parents are horrified by his escalating behavior. My uncle actually called to apologize again and to tell me they're considering making Jake move out if he doesn't get into therapy and make amends properly. Sarah has been quieter, but she did send me one final long email that was somehow even more disturbing than Jake's outbursts. She went into detail about how much she enjoyed our phone conversations and how she really did care about me during them. She said she sometimes forgot she was pretending and felt like we had a real connection. The email had this weird tone like she thought she was being romantic or something. Like she was trying to suggest that maybe we could date for real now that the truth was out. It was so inappropriate and delusional that I forwarded it to my therapist, who said it showed Sarah doesn't understand the severity of what she participated in. I've blocked both of them on everything. My family has been incredibly supportive and has basically ostracized Jake and Sarah from all gatherings until further notice. My grandmother, bless her, told Jake he was no grandson of hers until he learns to treat people with decency. The strangest thing is that this whole experience has actually brought me closer to the rest of my family. My parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins have rallied around me in a way I didn't expect. They've made it clear that what happened was unacceptable and that they support my decision to cut Jake and Sarah off. My cousin Lisa, who's always been kind of the family mediator, told me she's proud of how I've handled this and that she never liked Jake's mean streak anyway. As for dating and trusting people again, that's still a work in progress. My therapist says it's going to take time, and that's okay. She's helping me develop better boundaries and red flags to watch for, but she's also helping me understand that most people aren't capable of the level of sustained deception that Jake and Sarah pulled off. I've actually been talking to someone new, a woman I met through a coding bootcamp I'm taking. Nothing romantic yet, just friendship, but it's been nice to have normal, honest conversations with someone who doesn't know about the Emma situation. It's helping me remember what genuine connection feels like. I'm not ready to date seriously yet, but I'm starting to believe I will be someday. One last thing, several people have asked me to share Jake's and Sarah's information so they can give them a piece of their mind. I appreciate the support, but please don't do that. I don't want this to escalate further, and I don't want to become the kind of person who seeks revenge. What Jake and Sarah did was awful, but I want to heal and move forward, not stay stuck in anger and retribution. They'll have to live with what they did, and that's punishment enough. Thank you all again for your kindness and support. This community helped me feel less alone during the darkest period of my life, and I'll never forget that. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. But sometimes strangers on the internet restore your faith in human kindness.